Hey everybody, welcome to this second episode of the Road to the ProcureTech Cup. I'm your host, Joël Collin-Demers, your digital procurement mentor, consulting principal at Pure Procurement and head editor at the Pure Procurement newsletter. I have two guests today. My first one you can see here, that is an inanimate guest, but a guest all the same. Hold on, I'll take up my name here so you can see. The ProcureTech Cup is finally here. We had it manufactured. It's going to be sent to Airbase since day one last week. And coincidentally, that's who I have with me today. Sanduran is here, a Senior Director of Product Marketing at Airbase, a 4-year Airbaser, so a senior in the company. I'm so happy to have you with us.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, so tell me, we're excited to have you kick off the season. I'm excited to send you this trophy as well, which you merited last year. And yeah, just tell us, let's go straight into it, right? Tell us about the company, what you guys do, your ICP, your target market, unique value proposition, and we'll head straight into the demo.
Awesome. Sounds good. Yeah, just a little bit background on myself. I was a former corporate accountant, worked with procurement teams all of my life, IT, legal, etc. So I'll go ahead, present my screen, show you a little bit about what Airbase is, what we're all about, and then go right into the solution, which I know a lot of people are looking forward to getting into. So you should be able to see.
Yes.
Perfect. So Airbase, we were founded in 2017. We had over $101 million of equity funding, 800 clients. We're a fully remote company. I'm based out of Toronto, Canada, as you mentioned, 300 plus employees. Recent news, we just got acquired by Paylocity, a major player in the HCM space. And so we're really excited about what that means for our future investment and growth. And for Airbase, what we really do is we are a procure-to-pay solution that puts you in control. And when we think about procure-to-pay, we think about the entire life cycle of spend and managing all non-payroll spending. So if you're thinking about the intake orchestration problem, which I know a lot of the procurement professionals out there, how do they manage all of the requests across their business, make it an intuitive experience for every employee, whether it's marketing, sales, IT, whoever it is, to request that spend, but also make sure operationally they're having the time to put in, do they have the approval workflows in place? Are they able to negotiate and better understand how to reduce costs, find efficiencies across their processes? And this goes into all of their AP, expense management, and corporate cards. And so we really have this holistic view and not just solving for, Joelle, like, I have a procurement problem, I need to go fix this. It's about taking a step back, looking strategically and saying, wow, I have a much larger problem that interacts with so many different stakeholders, whether that's the orchestration of approval workflows and intake, all the way to vendor onboarding and vendor management. Then when you have that, how do you manage the invoices and purchase orders and payments? How do you process all of this? And then finally, for your accounting team stakeholders, your IT team, the actual close experience. Do you have the proper approvals, signed documentation in place? Are the POs and invoices being paid? And do we have that synced into your ERP? And then finally, obviously, an actionable way to find out what's happening within your business. Where are you spending this money? Where are there opportunities for cost effectiveness and savings? So that's what really Airbase is. If you think about how is Airbase different, this is a slide that really tells you we think about the entire life cycle of spend and how it interacts with all those different business groups that you need to interact with. And what this does for our customers. Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
And Darren, sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say, and how do you think about, like, when intake, you touched on something interesting, which is like the requests can be for anything from procurement, right? It could be a question, it could be starting a sourcing project, getting a contract created or renewed, or, you know, purchasing something on the market, or approvals for, you know, getting a P card, that sort of thing. So do you think of intake as being the whole gambit of what can be asked of procurement?
That's right. Exactly. So whether it's something that's backed by a purchase order or even a virtual card payment or a general request, absolutely. That's what we're thinking about. And the beauty of this solution is that it's not just procurement that's going to get this value. It's going to be all of the stakeholders and teams that you need to support, right? Because that's the real goal here is you need to make sure that you're enabling everybody around you to be successful to help drive the business growth, right? So we look at some of our customers, what they're doing. Definitive Healthcare, 3x growth in spend under management. Netlify, 80% of their non-payroll spend is now pre-approved. Doximity, getting a 3x ROI on shifting invoices to virtual card payments. And the other thing I'll talk about as well is that when you have a solution that's consolidated that brings all of these elements together, you actually get compounding value and benefits and value realization that you wouldn't have otherwise had. So that's what's exciting. And look, I can say all this stuff, but I suggest, you know, everyone take a look at what our customers say, what the IT teams say, procurement teams say, accounting teams say. We're really proud about what they say on G2, what analysts are saying about Airbase and what we're driving. We were named the Deloitte Fast 500 technology company, one of them ranked 45. So we're excited about that, the momentum that we're getting. And in terms of our customers, who is our ideal customers? Well, we service customers from any range of 100 employees to 5,000 employees, right? And we really pride ourselves in the depth of understanding the workflows and what the problems are of these teams at this size organizations. So really from 100 to 5,000 employees. And here's just a quick view of some of those customers. So with that
really
said,
like mid-market, early enterprise, as your slide says, right?
That's right. Mid-market, early enterprise, and the solution is highly scalable. And that's what a lot of our customers love, is the fact that, look, you may be at a specific part of your journey where you don't necessarily have all that complexity, but that's okay, because Airbase can grow with you because of the modern and intuitive UI. And you'll see that it's very simple for anybody to go in, access Airbase, request spend, and it's simple for every different stakeholder. So whether it's me on marketing, I know nothing about procurement, I know nothing about accounting, and I shouldn't need to, but I should have a system that guides me through everything that I need to supply, guides me through what the end outcome is, which is, for me, I want to spend to grow the business, but I need to do it in a way that provides visibility, control, and compliance to all of the teams in the business. And so that's what you'll see when we go through the solution demonstration.
Cool. And before you pop into the demo, the last question I have is like, what is it, just because of the existing customer base that you have that you say you're more mid-market, early enterprise, or do you see certain limitations with the solution that prevents you from serving enterprise?
Yeah, well, we really think about it as, for enterprise, there's lots of great solutions out there. Look, if you're a 20, 30, 40,000 person organization, you can go with those enterprise solutions. And what we decided and said, look, we want to take a stand for these companies that are between 100 and 5,000 employees. A lot of them don't need those heavy legacy enterprise solutions that cost an enormous amount of money. Implementation takes multi-year to go through. It's hard to get actually that value in ROI realization, where now Airbase can come in and say, you can get a modern and intuitive solution to solve this entire procure to pay problem that you have across your organization. And you know that you'll actually get the value that's being promised, because adoption is critical. Everyone knows this. If your employees, the organization is not adopting the solution, you'll never actually realize the value. And so I think what you'll see is an intuitive, modern interface that's easy to use is extremely important in making sure that any organization, procurement teams, get that value for their business.
Cool. Thanks for that, Sander. So when you're ready, we could get into the meaty stuff.
Okay, let's get cracking right into the demo. So I'll just share my screen, and I'm going to go into Airbase. Just let me know if you can see my screen, Joel.
Yep, here we go. Everybody else should be able to see it too.
Perfect. So this is Airbase. This is the dashboard. I'm logged in as an administrator here. And what you'll notice is that, look, I'll have a bunch of things that are popped up on my screen that allow me to go ahead and take action. And I mentioned we cover all of that non-payroll spending. So whether it's virtual card requests, bill payments, physical cards, expense reports, I have that all here. And you can see here on the left-hand side, my virtual cards, physical cards, bill payments, expense reports. And really, the one piece that I talked about in the beginning is, what is the value of consolidating it all? What is the value of having a procurement solution in with AP, expense reports, cards, all in one? Well, you can see all of the spend that's happening across your business in real time. So across all of my subsidiaries that I have, across all of my business groups, I can see, how much am I spending across the business? How much am I spending by department? Maybe, oh, look, marketing is spending a lot of money. A lot of it's pre-approved, but a lot of it's Maverick spend. Maybe I want to
always marketing.
It's always marketing. Those marketing guys, I don't know what they're doing. You can go ahead and dive into each one of these areas and go into the line level specifics. Who requested this spend? Who approved it? Show me all the supporting documentation. How did we pay this vendor? Is this vendor validated in our vendor network? And I can even see the ledger entries that sync into the ERP. So you have that flexibility and the insight across the entire life cycle of spend. Maybe I want to see how much I'm spending by my vendors. We're spending a lot of money on Salesforce, Zoom, LinkedIn. Double click here, maybe also find those cost savings opportunities that I'm looking for. Spend by category. So all of your chart of accounts, right? Looks like I'm spending a lot on software. Maybe I need to dig into this. So you have that ability to go do that across the board. And now it's not just about, by the way, the cost savings element of it and understanding where the money is being spent, but it's also a big part of what we're trying to do is drive efficiency across the business. And so that leads to productivity, right? How long is it actually taking people to go ahead and approve spend? How long is it taking for us to pay our vendors? How many of our bills are being matched with a PO or without a PO? Some organizations say I need anything material over $50,000 to have a PO. How am I paying my vendors? And this is another great value. Am I paying them by virtual card, by check, ACH, international wire? What our customers really love is we actually identify, because we have our vendor network, of all of the vendors that you pay, Joel, how many of them accept virtual card? Because cards are embedded in the Airbase platform. And we will say, flip them all over and you will earn cash back on those vendor payments on card. Many of our customers, we have stories where they earn 3, 4, 5x what they pay Airbase in an annual subscription just on cash back that they earn. So pretty incredible.
Like what I'm seeing here that's interesting as well is like, since you're starting from the finance piece of things and kind of evolving towards procurement, or at least the way I understand it is, you have that deep integration with the different payment channels that tie into purchasing channels, and then being able to reroute them based on what's most efficient, right? And the different types of purchases, right? So non-PO, PO spend, card spend, et cetera. And really, thinking of it sort of building a source to pay system based on, or procure to pay system, I should say, based on, the architecture for spend analysis systems that I've seen, right? Where you start from the invoice and then you tack on the PO information if you have it, you tack on additional information if you have it. So that's sort of the way the analogy I'm seeing before my eyes, right, as you explain it. Is that a correct summary?
That's absolutely right. And when I show you guided procurement, kind of how it starts that intake process to realize some of that spend, I think it's very important. And that's how we think of it is if you don't really have a solution to look at the entire life cycle, you're actually losing out on the cost savings opportunities. You're also losing out on the efficiency of your entire organization. So that's why that's really important. And so I'm going to go back to the dashboard here, and let's just play a little imagination. I'm actually on the marketing team. So imagine I wanted to go buy some software. How do I go do that? I would go to request and I would click spend. And so this is going to start now asking me some questions of what I want to spend, right? Whether it's maybe I want to go spend with Figma, right? And I know it's going to be $20,000 as an example. It's going to go populate the information for me to go ahead and start submitting to request for an approval. And this, what you're seeing here, is a more standard version of what that would look like. So you can see here, one-time virtual card. I can make a recurring virtual card, or I can ask for a purchase order. I can put in the details of the spend request. I can put in the accounting details. And so what we do is also, we want to make sure that these requests are being properly coded and categorized, right? So that your accounting and finance team, your partners on that end of the business, they're having as much efficiency as possible without having to review every single transaction. And we use a combination of machine learning and AI to auto-populate these fields. And then the approval workflows will automatically populate as well. So what we really want to do is make sure that entire request process is as seamless as possible. I'll just get out of here for one moment.
We're starting to get a few questions in the chat, and I think I'll let you finish your demo, and then in the last 10 minutes, we'll take a couple questions from the chat, because I think they're all global, right? So there's things we can readdress that are not in context. And then the other piece, when I'm seeing your intern screen, I'm going, you address like default values for users to make it easy to fulfill, but I'm excited to see, like, is there any, did you want to keep going on that flow, Sandaran, or?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, I am. So the one thing I know for a lot of our customers is they have a lot of complexity as well. So I'm just going to pull up a more complex version of it.
Okay. And maybe as we're doing that, I'll just, because there was one question around integration, and we can answer Paul's question in the last 10 minutes. But the way I'm interpreting it is that you need probably master data input into the systems, like users, vendors, that sort of thing. But from a transactional standpoint, you could potentially do all your purchasing in Airbase and only have an okay to pay file integration at the end with your accounting system, right?
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct. So if I go into here as an example, I'll just go into Calendly, let's say. So we talk about all those different approvals.
Let me just put you back on stage here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, you're up.
Perfect. So Here you can really see what the approval chain actually looks like. So maybe what I wanted to do and set this up, and this is all no code, by the way. And so what we allow you to do is set up your approval workflows and who needs to review and what also those other software solutions that you have across your business that we integrate with, and we integrate with a variety of them to say, look, actually in the beginning of a request, I need a vendor evaluation done. And so we have a full vendor onboarding portal where they come in, we bring in their W-9, we extract it, we validate their tax details with the IRS and 100 other government agencies, validate their bank account details, do an OFAC check, get them validated in the vendor network. Then after that, look, I actually want these approvals to now happen in parallel. I need my IT approval, my legal review, my InfoSec approval, and you can manage this by setting up different approval groups or setting up the approval workflows for different teams and subsidiaries. And these approvals can connect to those teams' best-in-class solutions. So maybe IT is using Jira. We have an integration with Jira where they don't actually have to even get into Airbase to approve this request. Airbase will trigger this into Jira, provide all the supporting documentation there for them so they can stay in Jira, look at the details, make the approval, and it'll trigger back into Airbase. Similar to legal review, where we have an integration with Ironclad, Asana, OneTrust. We have various integrations, and we have an API where you can connect and connect it into all of your business groups' requirements and solutions. And so you can see down below, once I have all of this, I have my finance and accounting approval. And this is where really I get to decide, is this a purchase order that I want to get an approval on? Is this going to be a virtual card payment? So you'll have that ability there. Then once this is all approved, you'll get a notification. We have integration with Slack. We have a mobile app, by the way, that works on iOS and Android. You'll obviously get an email. You'll see it in the dashboard. Once it's approved, the PO gets cut, then the invoice will come, and I'll talk about that process. But this is a fully customizable process here, right? With full collaboration and commenting capability built into the platform. And we're using AI. So you'll notice there's a few areas in here where you can actually, let's say I started a new request. If I go back here, and I use that example.
While you're doing that, excuse me, one of the things I've noticed in your form too is it said like virtual payment, P-card payment, purchase order. Does the user need to know, what purchasing channel they want to use up front?
Great question. So we can actually give guidance for the user, and you can set up those rules to say, actually, look, anything over $50,000, that's material, that's going to be a purchase order. Where look, anything under $50,000, you can just pay the vendor with a virtual card. You'll go through a similar approval workflow, and you can actually customize how you would like that to be and set that up in Airbase.
Okay, cool. And sorry, I cut you off. You were going to talk about artificial intelligence functionality here.
That's right. So that's another big piece that we've integrated across Airbase. So not only machine learning, we've been doing that since 2017, but also with generative AI. So we give the ability now to, even in the case where maybe I started having conversations with a vendor, they gave me an order form. I can actually, instead of manually filling out all these details, upload the order form, and it's going to extract all of those details for me and auto-populate the request. It can be an order form. It can be a statement of work. In this example, I'll kind of say, I'm going to start from scratch just to show you what it looks like from scratch. And this is going to be a more complex use case. So maybe I'm going to go by, who knows what it could be. Let's say it's Slack or another software solution for a much larger amount of money. So I can click search for a vendor. If I do software subscription or sales and marketing event, and if I search here, Figma, perfect. That's great. What's the allocated
vendors that we don't have in our back end, right? Like add a new vendor.
Yeah, so you can add a new vendor. So if you don't have a vendor here, you can actually create a new vendor, and they'll go through the entire vendor onboarding process.
So kick off that parallel workflow, which we do not have time for today.
Exactly. So all I have to do as an end user is input these basic details. I click save and continue. Now, based on this information, it's going to say, okay, well, what you need is actually a department approval, then a finance and accounting approval, right? With the purchase order. And so it would give me all of these details. And the great thing is about this, it's completely no code. So if I go back into settings, for an example, and I want to change this across all of these workflows, I can do it in here, and it's super simple and easy for me to do this. So I can click into that InfoSec approval as an example, click into here. I can decide, what do I want to change in this form? Do I want to add any of these fields? Do I want to add any new sections? So this is all drag and drop. Maybe I want to add a courier address, put that in there. Do I want to change the field name, add help text, tooltip text? And then there's other preferences. Maybe I actually want to only display this field based on certain conditions, whether it's by a subsidiary department, etc. And so what I'll do is wrap up, because I know we're running out of time. We help orchestrate this entire intake process so that you can process those POs and purchase orders. But it's really important to also know what happens when you get that PO. You're going to get an invoice. And so what we do is actually fully automate that entire process as well through our AP automation capabilities and what we do, where we extract all of the details with OCR, our payment capabilities, 200 countries, 145 currencies, and then the entire close experience as well in Airbase. So at the end of the day, everybody can see every single transaction goes into the general ledger. Your vendors are being paid. You're finding those cost savings opportunities, and you're solving for this major problem that organizations have today, which is their procure-to-pay operations. How are they managing their vendors, funneling requests across the system, making sure that their purchases are compliant with IT, InfoSec, legal's requirements, making sure that people like me get to spend the money, but where you have the control, visibility, and opportunity to maximize your cost savings across the business.
Very cool. Thanks for that, Sandir. I'll leave your screen up just as we look at some questions here. I have some of my own, but I want to get to the questions in the chat here. So we had Taj, and I'm going to try to put them up on screen here, where he says, "Are there any inventory related functions or modules?" Right, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier around like the integration where I just pull master data in and pay at the end. So do you, I guess this is more for like indirect type businesses where you don't have MRP, inventory management, material masters?
That's right. So for NetSuite and Intact, we do support three-way matching, right, with NetSuite, as an example. Otherwise, for a lot of our companies, what they do is if they have much stricter and much more material direct inventory requirements, they would typically use Airbase in conjunction with one of those other solutions.
Like with the ERP, doing the ERP, right. And to your point, you could do potentially 100% of your matching in Airbase, but you'd have to have more interfaces, right? I have to pull in POs from the ERP, goods receipts, so I'm able to three-way match in Airbase.
That's right.
Okay, cool. And I guess on that note, Taj had another question around how you determine if a potential customer is a good fit for Airbase.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, look, if they're within our ICP and we think about what is the problem that they're trying to solve? So if they're trying to solve for a really holistic problem across the business, that's number one. Number two is that question. Are you a company or an organization that's primarily direct spend managing all of this inventory? I'd say no, well, then we're not the right solution for you. But if you do have some inventory requirements, absolutely, and you're dealing with a lot of indirect spend, then Airbase is the right solution for you. And we really believe that if you're a company between 1 to 5,000 employees, you do not need those legacy, super expensive, clunky solutions out there. And that's why Airbase was founded, because it was like this segment of the market that we felt was underserved, where there wasn't really any solutions for them other than these enterprise solutions. But then you had these SMB players that just didn't have the complexity, the multi-subsidiary, multi-currency support to actually meet the requirements of these growing mid-market businesses.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think, Airbase has attacked that problem, and others have as well, right? Which is kind of confirms that there is an opportunity there, right? There is a problem to solve. I'm looking through questions here to see which ones we want to come up here. So Ray was asking, like, these are cool functionalities, but what would help sell this and secure adoption of stakeholders and leaders? So what's the ROI promise that you usually, or how do you build the business case? I think I would rephrase that as.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you think about ROI, I think about there's a lot of direct drivers of ROI and cost savings, then there's a lot of the indirect. And I think you saw how we try to tackle that even by showcasing that to your business leaders, by saying, where is the money going, and identifying those cost savings opportunities that will land a tangible ROI. I think the biggest thing, the number one immediate thing our customers will say, I am paying right now for a intake solution separately, an expense solution, bill pay solution, corporate card solution, all separately right now. I can immediately consolidate all that. Immediate ROI is granted, and I get that value realization right away because it's much more intuitive and easy to use for everybody if you're in one interface. to manage all of this across all your stakeholders. So that's the immediate ROI right off the bat, the consolidation of all these solutions. Secondarily to that, there's so much that we're doing in Airbase where we actually bubble up this for those procurement professionals to say, where are your costs going? What are the opportunities to drive improvement so you can better negotiate better rates on contracts, et cetera, but also not even just the 80%. And what we talk to for our customers, they're typically smaller procurement teams. They can only focus on the 80% of that material spend where they want to get into it and make sure they're negotiating those contracts. But how about that other 20% of the tail end spend? It's still meaningful. And so what you need to do is have a solution that'll help scale your influence in the business, making sure there's no zombie spend for software subscriptions. That's the big one a lot of companies have. Employees are joining and leaving. How many licenses are you paying for? Making sure that we can bubble up in our vendor network to say, look, you're actually paying, you want to request for a sauna for this many seats. We know from our customers, this is the average of what they're spending based on benchmarking data to give you some analysis to make sure that you understand how much should you be spending. Then there's other things that come with the consolidation where with a virtual card program and corporate cards built into Airbase, we'll tell you, you can earn this much more cash back. Flip over all these vendors from ACH, pay them with virtual card. There's so many ways across the entire life cycle of spend you can go save that money, but then it's also the other secondary drivers, the efficiencies that you get, right? For all of the teams that you work with, making sure, especially the accounting, IT teams, making sure that they're working in the way that they need to work in their best-in-class solutions so that they can support all of the business groups that you're supporting as well.
And Ray says he loves the answer, so that's good. But what I'd summarize is like there's multiple ways to build a business case out depending on your context and the pain you're living through, right? Whether it be high software spend or not being able to get to certain categories of spend, right? And then depending on that context and the value levers, you'll be able to justify a business case for one of these solutions. But on top of what you're saying is once you start using it, you'll have all these opportunities to discover other ways to save on your procurement costs, right? So Paul had questions around integration, but I think Michael answered them in the comments. We had how does the solution support document management, side chat conversations, internal conversations, surveys, etc. And maybe we could touch on if you have any like templates for processes as well. And that'll be the last question for today because I want to get to the market map.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of document management, Airbase does have light CLM capabilities. So I talked about how contracts are being uploaded, documents. So those will sit in either the vendor record, the master, that request, and all of that gets synced into the ERP. The side chats that was mentioned. So we have full commenting capability and collaboration across the platform, not only on the web app, but also on the mobile app. So I can be here commenting away, the Slack integration as well. So we do support that. And that's very important. We know collaboration and supporting the business group's communication will help streamline that entire procure to pay process. So all of that's really built into the platform.
Very cool. And we had a couple questions on three-way match, but I think Michael answered those as well in the chat. So Michael, thanks for working overtime while we're doing this. So up on screen now, you can see the ProcureTech Cup market map, right? So here, Sanduran, thank you very much for that really concise and precise and clear demo. I wanted to show you, so I'll bring this up every week, but essentially show you based on what Sanduran just presented. If we look at how I decompose with procurement the software market, here's in yellow where they provide full modules, right? So there is your typical strategic procurement, strategic sourcing, right? Source to contract, where there is some spend analysis and demand management, where we saw with the intake functionality, light CLM, as Sanduran was mentioning. And then we saw a bit more like the operational purchasing capabilities. So purchase orders, receipts, invoice, AP automation, and then payment integration with the ERP. We saw some intake functionality as well with the configurable forms. And the flow we didn't cover, but that the solution also supports is supplier onboarding, classification, qualification, management of supplier data, and linking to those transactional documents, and then offboarding, right? So you mentioned your vendor network as well. And so I just want to clarify, like this is our solution capabilities identified by Airbase. So I'm not necessarily giving a stamp of approval on this. I haven't looked through the hood, but I think it's important to at least get a standard communication method together to say, hey, like where does Airbase say that they play, right? And at which level? And so I thank you, Sanduran, for mentioning that. And we'll be able to contrast and compare with other solutions as we go through this road to the ProcureTech Cup in following weeks. So is there anything you would add to what I just said, Sanduran, around the capabilities?
No, the other thing I just want to mention is I'm really happy that the people that have joined this, it really does show that the procurement teams that are out there are really now taking a look at what are those solutions to really help scale themselves. And I think, look at the last 3 or 4 years of this economy, everyone's looking for operational and efficient growth. And I think procurement teams are put right into the center of all of that now. So the spotlight is on.
For sure. And so thanks so much for joining us, Sanduran. I couldn't agree more, which is why I'm doing this series of trying to expose the leaders in ProcureTech to procurement professionals and get their questions answered without them having to schedule all the demo and discovery calls themselves. So what I would say is, if you want to reach Airbase for more questions, I'll have links in the chat, in the comments on LinkedIn, in the comments on YouTube. You can also join or follow their page on LinkedIn and reach out to Sanduran, I would imagine, if you want to get your inbox crowded on LinkedIn. And we'll leave it there for this week. So thanks for joining us for episode 2 of the ProcureTech, the road to the ProcureTech Cup. You see, it's an actual physical thing now, so there's more incentive to get involved on the brand side. And I look forward to seeing you guys again next week with a new company. Thanks so much.